Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. So guys, David Benavidez. Mr. David Benavidez is in the headlines nowadays. Look, I'm going to do a video about David Benavidez and Charlo getting into a brutal, almost coming to blows. But David Benavidez made a comments about Canelo Alvarez, saying that Canelo Alvarez needs to vacate. He needs to vacate. If he's not going to fight me. We all know that Canelo's fighting Dmitry Bivol, and then he's going to fight Golovkin at 168, where he's going to defend his 168-pound titles against Gennady Golovkin if he's successful against Dmitry Bivol. What I would say is I kind of agree with David Benavidez in the sense that if Canelo Alvarez has no ambition of staying at 168, then I do think that Canelo Alvarez should vacate after, if he's going to go to light heavyweight, because what will happen is then he's holding up the division, and he's holding up these guys, giving these guys an opportunity of becoming world champion. So if David Benavidez wants to be a world champion and Canelo's got all the belts and he's holding on to the belts, then, you know, obviously that stops these guys like Andrade and Charlo and for fighting one another. Andrade and Benavidez and all these guys fighting one another, because let's be honest, that's what we want to see. So if Canelo Alvarez, after the Golovkin fight, is looking to go to light heavyweight, I think Canelo Alvarez should vacate the belts. Unless he's looking to stay at 168 and then fight those guys. But I don't think he will. I personally think that if Canelo beats Golovkin, what you got to realize is that Beterbiev and Smith are fighting. Right, the winner of that fight is going to have 3 of the belts. So that fight, if Canelo beats Bivol, he would have 1 belt, and he could fight the winner of Beterbiev Smith for the undisputed. Imagine if Smith was to pull it off. Not to say Smith's an easy fight, but that would be literally for me, a comfortable win for Canelo. Because I don't think Smith is going to beat Beterbiev. No chance, in my opinion. But, you know, I'm pretty sure I think Canelo would be more reluctant, obviously, against Beterbiev than he would against Smith. But I do think that Beterbiev will win that fight. And I do think that Canelo would fight Beterbiev as well, because I think the demand for the fight would be huge. And I think the demand for the fight would be massive. But not just that, I think Canelo Alvarez would look at it as an opportunity to become undisputed at 175 and add to his stellar legacy already. You see, so Canelo Alvarez would get a golden opportunity to become undisputed at 175 without even having to put in that much work. Yeah, he would have beaten Bivol, and he'd have to beat Beterbiev, who's the 2 of the best guys in the division. So although I'm saying not, but he would only need 2 fights. Where how many fights did he have? You know, he had about 3 fights. He basically cleaned out every champion. You know, apart from the WBC, where the WBC was vacant. But still, for him to become undisputed, he's going to have to beat Bivol and Beterbiev, which is no joke. You know, Beterbiev is a monster, and so is Bivol. You know, some people don't even think he's going to get through the challenge of Bivol. So, yeah. I agree with David Benavidez, and I don't really agree with a lot of those guys. I think a lot of those guys need to start fighting each other. But if Canelo Alvarez vacating the belts means that those guys are going to fight each other and we're going to get all those guys to fight each other, then I'm all for that. Because as I've said before, I'm all for the better of boxing. And if Canelo Alvarez, after the Golovkin fight, is going to move to 175, I think he then should vacate the belts. Because otherwise you're holding up the division if you have no ambition of fighting at 168, which I can't see what his ambition would be to fight at 168 if he's cleaned it out. Who knows? Maybe he might stay there and take a Benavidez fight. You see, a lot of people seem to think that Canelo Alvarez is going to beat Bivol, beat Golovkin, and then he's going to take on Benavidez and Charlo. I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. Because there'll be an opportunity for him to fight Beterbiev. So what he may do is he may fight Beterbiev, become undisputed at 175, then may go down to 160. Now, obviously, this is all ifs and buts, because he's got to beat, he's got to beat Beterbiev and Bivol, which, is no easy feat. But if he does, then he may go back down to fight Benavidez. And who knows, at that point, Al Haymon may offer him a ridiculous amount of money. You see, the money that's being offered to Canelo Alvarez, for me, it's standard. It's not ridiculous amount of money. And this is the problem that I think that a lot of guys have. I think Canelo Alvarez, as big a star as he is, I don't think his numbers are that huge where they could pay him ridiculous amount of money. And what I mean is, like, when Floyd Mayweather got paid like 200-300 million, right? The numbers were ridiculous, and they knew the pay-per-view number was going to do crazy numbers. The problem is with Canelo fighting Charlo and Benavidez, they can't really afford to pay Canelo 100 million or 150 million because the pay-per-view numbers aren't going to reflect that. The pay-per-view numbers aren't going to do 1.5 to 2 million for those fights. You know, so 50, 60 million that he's being offered is probably fair. You know, for the numbers that the show's going to do. Otherwise, I think if Al Haymon was to put in a ridiculous offer, like just say I'll pay you 250 million for 2 fights, you know, even that is it's a lot of money, but it's kind of like that would be considered like, yeah, that's serious money, 125 million a fight. It's just the problem is I don't think those fights do enough numbers for Al Haymon to put in that kind of offer. He'd be at a big risk of making a loss. Whereas the numbers that Canelo's being offered, 50, 60 million, he's getting that now anyway. He's getting that for every fight. He's not being offered anything which is above and beyond what he's getting paid. So for me, if he got offered like 200-300 million for those, a deal for 200-300 million to fight Charlo and Benavidez, I think he would take it, you know, he would take that, you know. But the problem, I think it is that the fact that the money that he's being offered by everybody is kind of similar. He's not being offered a crazy deal by anybody. You know, I'm pretty sure DAZN, I'm pretty sure Al Haymon offered him the same kind of amount of money or the same kind of range as what DAZN or, you know, offered him. So Al Haymon and DAZN probably offered him the same kind of money. So he's not really being offered anything above and beyond. You know, so then it comes down to what he thinks is more of a legacy kind of fight. Is what, you know, what's going to enhance his legacy. And he probably thought at this point, Bivol and, you know, Golovkin is more of a legacy fight than Charlo and Benavidez. I think Charlo and Benavidez would have been fights that a lot of people would have been interested in. It would have been huge fights. They would have had a lot of media attention. But so is Golovkin. Like, Golovkin and Canelo have history. And they're massive names. You'd say that Golovkin's a way bigger name than Charlo and Benavidez. And rightfully so. You know, Golovkin's name is earned. You know, I would say at this point that Benavidez, although Charlo's a good fighter, Benavidez is a good fighter, I don't feel their reputation and the kind of stigma that there's around those guys, I don't think it's been earned. I don't think they've earned that reputation of being the killers that they are, that they're perceived to be, because they've not really fought anybody really when you think about it. So at the minute, for me, with them two, it's a more eye test. You know, that's why if they were to fight each other, we'd get to see how good these guys really are. But they need to fight each other, man. They need to fight each other and not rely on Canelo. And this is why I'm all for Canelo vacating, you know, after the Golovkin fight. Especially if Canelo, because Canelo's going to go up to 175 to fight Beterbiev for all the belts, then him having the 168 belts is just no point. You know, it's just holding up a division when those guys could potentially fight each other for the belts. You know, so personally, yeah, I think he should definitely vacate after the Golovkin fight. Will he? I'm not sure. I think that'll come down to whether what he decides to do. Whether if he decides to stay at I think if he decides to stay at 168, then fair enough. But if he decides to go and fight Beterbiev at 175 and goes and fights another fight at 175, then I definitely think he should vacate, because that would be crazy holding so many belts. Plus, like I said, those guys probably won't fight each other without belts. And also, Canelo would probably at that point have a lot of mandatories which he'd have to handle as well. So he may have to vacate. You know, the governing bodies may make him, because it's Canelo, you never know. They may say, you know, they may not put much pressure on Canelo. They may be happy with Canelo to have those belts. But I just think for the better of the sport, for the better of the division, and for those guys to be fighting each other, I think Canelo probably should vacate after Golovkin if he's not going to stay at 168. Because like I said, I think that'll just mean that, you know, it's holding up a division. But what do you guys think? Who do you guys want to see Benavidez fight? You know, there's a lot of talks about David Morrell. You know, apparently he's a really good up-and-coming guy, you know, and people want to see him in the action as well. Want to see him in the mix. Charlo, what's he doing? Is he going to stay at middleweight? Is he going to move up to super middleweight? Andrade, what's going on with him? He's fighting Zach Parker. After Zach Parker, is it going to be Benavidez? Who's Zach Parker? I mean, who's Andrade going to fight after if he's successful against Zach Parker? You know, these are all things that are bubbling. And this is why Canelo vacating the belts would mean that all of these guys get to fight for the belts. And let's see who's the best out of David Morrell, Andrade, Benavidez, Caleb Plant. You know, let's see who the best is. Charlo. Let's see who the best is out of all of these guys, you know. You know, there's Berlanga hanging around. Although I don't know whether Berlanga is the real deal at all. But, you know, there's all these guys, you know, floating around. You know, once these belts do become vacant, let's see how good these guys really are. Let's get these guys in some kind of mini tournament and get these guys fighting each other. You know, imagine a tournament, right? Imagine a tournament, a Super 6 or a Super 8 or whatever you want to call it, right? You have Charlo, Benavidez, David Morrell, Andrade, Caleb Plant, you know, Berlanga even. You know, all these guys getting in the mix and fighting each other. How good that... David Benavidez, you know, how good would it be if all these guys fighting each other, man? Get them in some kind of mini tournament and then get them all to square off with each other. And then you know, whoever loses gets knocked out. The winner goes on to the semi and then the semis and then the final. You know what I mean? I would love to see some kind of tournament. You know, there was a Super 6. Maybe they can make it, you know, an 8. A tournament of 8 just for the super middleweight division and getting all these guys to fight one another. You know, it'd be great. It'd be great. Maybe even you could put Danny Jacobs in the mix. You know, I know Danny Jacobs is kind of seen to have... I've seen better days, but maybe, you know, I personally think he won his last fight. So maybe Danny Jacobs could be in the mix as well. You know, so like I said, I think there's a lot that can be done. It's just that, you know, the problem is the politics, the different promoters... You know, them being with different networks and different promoters. I think that's the only issue. Because Andrade, who is he with? He's with... having said that, Andrade is going to become a free agent now. So Andrade could potentially go and sign with PBC. They could do... Like, if they all go and sign with PBC, because Charlo's with PBC. Benavidez with PBC. You know, I believe Morrell must be with PBC. Andrade's a free agent. He could go with PBC. So... all of the Caleb Plant's with PBC. All of these guys are with PBC. So why can't they all get a mini tournament going on? You know, it's for the better of the sport. You know, rather than getting these guys fighting lower tier opposition and fighting second string guys, you know, padding up their records, there's no point. You know, they might as well fight each other. And you know, make good money at the same time. There'll be, because like if Caleb Plant fought Benavidez, there'll be a lot of interest in that fight. Both guys will get paid handsomely, more than they would fighting second string guys, you know. And then the winner of that fight can go on and get an even bigger payday, you know. So, yeah, man, I think they should start fighting each other. There is a lot to gain. But however, I do agree with David Benavidez. If Canelo Alvarez doesn't, after the Golovkin fight, has no ambition of staying at 168, I think he should definitely vacate the belts. That's just my opinion. But leave your thoughts in the comment section, bro. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to know your opinion. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video. Leave your comments in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.